After the die was cast, Joseph Jackson and his attorney Richard Aarons quietly began scouting for a new record deal, meeting from with Atlantic Records, which had a long experience with rhythm and blues music. Surprisingly, Atlantic's chairman, Edmund Erdogan, was unenthusiastic about the Jackson 5. He said because of their inconsistent record sales at Motown in recent years. Joseph was not interested in trying to convince anyone of his son's popularity. He had enough of that with Motown. If anything, Emmett's view helped to underscore Joseph's opinion that Motown truly had damaged his son's reputation in the music industry. Joseph was more interested in a CBS Records group anyway, at which most of the black acts were contracted to the Epic subsidiary. CBS was renowned for its excellent record distribution and promotion network. They made Motown look sick, is how Joseph put it. Ron Exellenberg, president of Epic, and ironically enough, a former protege of Motown's Edward Ebner, was interested in signing the Jackson 5. Joseph respected Alexenberg. Under his guidance, Epic had increased its annual billing from less than $10 million to over $100 million. A competitive leader with his finger on the pulse of the record industry. Alexenberg suspected that Barry Gordy had tapped only a small percentage of the Jacksons' fullest potential. He wanted to find out what else was there. Joseph was also attracted by the company's profitable relationship with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, producers of the so-called Philly sound that had generated millions with hit records by black groups like the OJs and 3 Degrees. Gamble and Huff had their own label at CBS, which they called Philadelphia International, though Joseph felt that Philadelphia International was too small a subsidiary for the Jackson 5. He admires CBS's commitment to black music. Perhaps the company will one day award him his own label as well, he thought. He saw a future at CBS, not just for his sons, but for himself. Ron Alexenberg told Walter Yankovic, president of CBS Records, that he wanted to sign the Jackson 5 immediately. Walter was skeptical. They haven't been hot in a long time, he said. And now look at them. They're into this kitschy Vegas thing. Trust me, Ron told him, according to his attorney. This group isn't finished. It hasn't even begun yet. After quick and easy negotiations, an agreement was struck, one that Joseph called a sweet deal. The Jackson 5 will receive in advance, known in the record industry as a signing bonus of $750,000. They would also receive an additional $500,000 from a record funding, money meant specifically to produce the group's albums. They were guaranteed to be paid $350,000 per album, far more than they have ever received at Motown, but many millions less than Michael Jackson would be paid for his services a scant 5 years down the road. All the advance money from CBS was to be recouped from royalties, but the royalty rate the new label offered was 27% of the wholesale price for records released in the United States. At Motown, the Jackson 5 had been paid 2.7%, and before they saw that, they knew they had been paid back the cost of expenses, including studio time, over which they had little to no control from royalties. At this time, 1979, an album retailed for approximately $6.99, $3.50 wholesale. So at Epic, the Jacksons will make approximately 94.5 cents per album sold in the United States and 84 cents abroad. At Motown, they made roughly 11 cents per album sold in the United States, with no difference in the European rate. Evidently, in an Epic deal, after each Jackson 5 album topped $500,000 in sales, the group's royalty rate will jump to 30%, about $1.05 a disc. In terms of income, this new deal was worth about 500 times more than the one the group had at Motown. Snag negotiations occurred when Walter Yagnev refused to allow the Jacksons to write and produce or even choose all their own material. He simply did not have confidence in their abilities as writers or producers, since none of them had any experience in that arena. Ron Eisenberg assured Walter that demos, roughly recorded samples of songs penned and produced by the Jacksons, which Joseph had submitted, showed great promise. Still, Walter was not swayed. Therefore, the best Joseph could negotiate was that his sons would be able to choose at least 3 songs on each album, written by them or someone else. Also, there was an understanding that if the group came up with 3 good songs of their own, those tones will receive far consideration for use on an album. This too was more than they had ever got at Motown. However, the concession was not in to be the contract. It was verbal, and anyone knows that in the world of business and verbal agreement is tough enforce. Still, at least there was some dialogue about the notion of the group having artistic freedom. Joseph was confident that his boys would only have to prove themselves one time. After that, they never looked back. Michael was amazed by the contract CBS had offered the family. He had no idea that the group was worth so much and that this was the kind of contract other superstar acts were accustomed to in the record business. He had to admire his father's tendencies. After all, had it not been for Joseph, the Jackson 5 might have slid into obscurity at Motown. I'll have to admit it, Michael later noted. This was one incredible record deal. My father did an amazing job for us. Still, Michael was torn between the notion of loyalty to Barry and that of good business sense. He decided to discuss the matter with Diana Ross. Her reaction was predictable. She said that she had no influence over Barry where business matters were concerned, and she wasn't lying. She didn't. But that Michael should listen to him because, as always, he knew that was best for all of his artists. I just believe that the boys should stay at Motown, she recalled in a 1981 interview. I was loyal to Barry at the time and I felt that they should be as well. I told Michael that loyalty was the most important thing, not money. In 6 years, Diana Ross would change her mind about being loyal to Barry Gordy and Motown. When she was having her own disagreements with him and decided to check on her value at other companies, RCA offered her $20 million much more than Barry could offer her. She turned to Smokey Robinson for advice. Smokey gave her the same advice she had given Michael about loyalty to Barry. However, she felt she had no choice. It didn't make sense to turn out that much money. She signed she signed with RCA.